He froze the moment he saw her. 7 years had passed, but he knew that face anywhere around. The same strength in her eyes, the same quiet fire that once made him believe in something better than himself. And then, behind her, 3 little boys, standing straight, curious, polite. His blood ran cold. They looked like him, every line of their faces, the curve of their smiles, the way they tilted their heads. It was impossible. He had missed this. Every single day. Welcome to Chronicles of Black. I'm Simmons, and today, you're going to witness a story that touches the raw heart of ambition, betrayal, and resilience. Don't forget to subscribe, and comment below. What would you do if a past you thought you left behind came back in the most shocking way? Derek Lawson straightened his tuxedo, but it felt heavier than ever. The gala around him glittered with wealth and approval, with people who shook his hand politely but only because it served them. He had climbed to the top: power, money, influence. But now, in this one moment, it felt meaningless. Ariel's presence didn't just stop him, it demanded everything he had avoided for years. Guilt, shame, regret, they all hit at once. He remembered the night he left her. She had been 7 months pregnant, their dreams tangled in love and survival. He had promised her he would provide, that together they would rise. But whispers, judgments, and the hunger for acceptance twisted his mind. Investors told him she was a distraction. Colleagues smirked, calling her too much or not the right image. And Derek, he chose their approval over her, over family, over himself. Now she stood there, flawless, calm, holding her children as if the world could not touch them. And yet, her eyes carried stories he had refused to see. Stories of nights spent worrying, of doors closed, of hearts hardened by the same world he had run toward. He saw the boys glance at him, almost like they were asking without words, "Who are you? Why weren't you there? How could someone disappear and leave behind not just a woman, but a life?" And for the first time, Derek didn't have answers, only shame and longing. Ariel's hand rested lightly on one of the boy's shoulders. She didn't flinch, didn't look away. She let him see her strength, her dignity. And in that moment, Derek understood, the life he thought he had built was incomplete. The wealth, the accolades, the approval, they could not fill the space he had abandoned. And now, standing face to face with what he had forsaken, he felt the true cost of ambition without conscience. The night stretched on, glitter and laughter surrounded them, but Derek felt only the pull of the past, and the quiet demand of the present, that he faced the choices he had made. The choices that led to this unimaginable reunion. And in that silence, the first threads of reckoning began to form. Years before the gala, Derek and Ariel's world was smaller, harder, but full of hope. They met in a cramped apartment above a grocery store, where laughter and dreams were louder than the city sirens outside. Derek had ambition burning in his chest, but it was raw, unpolished, and misunderstood. Ariel saw it, nurtured it, believed it could carry them both somewhere better. She didn't care that the world whispered they were too black, too poor, too ordinary. She believed in him. Their love wasn't perfect. Arguments flared over money, survival, and the constant weight of being black in a country that demanded they prove their worth every single day. But their bond was real, stitched together with shared struggle and stolen moments of joy. When Ariel discovered she was pregnant, they were terrified, but they also imagined a life together where they could rise without leaving their roots behind. And then the pressure came, not just from the world, but from the people Derek wanted to impress. Investors, mentors, and colleagues, mostly white, started shaping his path. Their advice was insidious. You have to choose the right image. You can't be tied down. She'll hold you back. At first, Derek resisted, but the whispers grew louder, and so did his insecurity. The more he climbed, the more he believed that leaving Ariel behind was the only way to survive. Ariel noticed the change. She saw him hesitate before holding her hand. She heard him pause before promising tomorrow. She confronted him, crying, asking if their love was enough, asking if he could fight for them as fiercely as he fought for the approval of strangers. And Derek, he flinched. He had already begun to believe the world more than he believed her. When the final moment came, he didn't argue. He packed his life into a suitcase and left, walking out of the apartment and into a future where success was defined by wealth and influence, not love. Ariel was left with the baby growing inside her, abandoned by the man who had once promised everything. But she was not broken. She carried her child, and then 2 more, through nights of fear and exhaustion. She worked jobs that barely paid, faced landlords who sneered, and neighbors who whispered. Every day she felt the sting of being a black single mother, unseen and underestimated. And yet, through it all, she rose. She refused to let the world tell her she was worth less. She became her own foundation, her own safe place, teaching her boys that dignity could not be bought, only earned through integrity and courage. Every lesson she gave them was a shield against the prejudice that had scarred her. Every hug, every bedtime story, every whispered encouragement was a quiet rebellion against a system that had tried to make her invisible. Derek, in his world of gala lights and polite smiles, had no idea that those boys, the ones who now stood before him, had grown into reflections of him that he had never nurtured. They carried his features, his smile, his stubborn streak, but they also carried Ariel's resilience, her unshakable strength. And when he finally saw them, he realized that leaving her had cost him not just love, but a piece of himself he could never recover. The past had been cruel, but it had also been instructive. And now, years later, that past was standing in front of him, demanding recognition, accountability, and maybe, if he was brave enough, the chance to begin again. The gala seemed to blur around Derek as he walked closer. The chandeliers, the polite laughter, the clinking of glasses, it all became background noise. Ariel's eyes met his again, steady and unyielding. He wanted to run, to hide behind the success he had fought so hard for, but something in her gaze stopped him. She wasn't angry in the way he feared. She was calm, composed, but every inch of her spoke the truth of the life he had abandoned. The boys were watching. One tugged at Ariel's sleeve, curious, cautious. They had no memory of him, and yet, in the way they mirrored his expressions, in the way they tilted their heads, he could see pieces of himself he had never been allowed to hold. He swallowed hard. Every practiced apology dissolved before the weight of reality. This wasn't about wealth, status, or power. This was about the years he had stolen from them, and the years he had left empty in his own life. IRL, he finally whispered, voice cracking. I don't know where to start. She didn't flinch. Start with the truth, she said softly, almost gently, but there was steel beneath her words. Start with why you left. He closed his eyes. He thought about the whispers of investors, the subtle judgments of colleagues, the world telling him he had to be someone else to succeed. He thought about the nights he spent alone in penthouses, wondering if the life he had built was worth the cost. And now he faced the ultimate proof, the life he had lost, standing right in front of him. I let the world decide for me, he said, each word a hammer against his chest. I let fear make me selfish. I left you when you needed me most, and I missed everything. Your strength, your love, their lives. I have no excuse. None at all. Ariel studied him, her face unreadable. The boys peeked around her legs, their curiosity tempered by caution. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't scream. She simply said, 7 years, Derek. 7 years I taught them to stand tall, to never let anyone make them feel less than they are. 7 years you weren't here. That is the truth you have to face. He nodded, pain and shame twisting inside him. The words cut deeper than any insult, deeper than any judgment he had endured from the world he had chased. He realized that his absence had consequences far beyond what he could imagine. Every milestone he had missed, every scraped knee he had not kissed, every bedtime story he had not told, they had built a distance he could never fully erase. But he didn't turn away. He could not. He had waited too long for this moment, and now he had no choice but to confront it. I want to be part of their lives, he said quietly. Not as a rich man offering lessons in money, but as their father. As someone who should have been here all along. Ariel's eyes softened slightly, not in forgiveness, but in recognition of his courage to speak the truth. She allowed a small nod, letting him see that he could begin to make amends. But only if he was ready to do the work, not just words, not just apologies. The gala faded completely, leaving only them, the boys, and the unspoken weight of years that demanded reckoning. In that moment, Derek realized that success meant nothing without responsibility, and responsibility was the first step toward redemption. The gala lights no longer mattered. Derek knelt to meet the boys at eye level, his heart pounding in a rhythm he hadn't felt in years. They studied him, curious but cautious, like small judges weighing the measure of the man who had abandoned them. One of them stepped forward, the youngest, and reached for his hand. Derek's chest tightened. That simple touch carried the weight of 7 years of absence, of questions unasked and stories untold. Arielle watched silently, her expression a careful balance of strength and caution. She had built this life without him, fought through judgment, and now allowed him a glimpse not into her world entirely, but enough to see the people he had wronged. Derek understood that this wasn't about forgiveness yet. It was about presence, honesty, and showing up for the first time. I don't want to be just a stranger, Derek said, voice low, trembling. I want to be your father. I want to learn your dreams, your fears, everything I missed. I know I don't deserve it, but I want to try. Please." The boys hesitated. They were polite, but they were not blind. They had grown strong under Ariel's guidance, shielded from disappointment as best she could. Yet, there was something undeniable in his eyes, the raw sincerity, the brokenness that sought repair. Slowly, the middle boy stepped closer, and then the eldest. A bridge, fragile but real, began to form. Ariel finally spoke, her voice calm, yet firm. "You will not erase the past. You cannot buy what you missed, but you can choose what happens next. That is what matters now. Do you understand?" He nodded, swallowing hard. "I do. And I will. I'll prove it, every day if I have to." For the first time, a small relief washed over him. A warmth he had not felt in years. Not the warmth of wealth or applause, but the quiet, grounding warmth of family. The boys laughed softly at something he said, a joke he barely remembered making, and for a fleeting moment, the weight of absence lifted. It was not gone, and it never would be, but it was met with presence, effort, and love, however imperfect. Ariel stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Not forgiveness yet, but acknowledgement. If you truly want to be here," she said, "you have to understand that this is about them, not you. Their lives, their experiences. Listen more than you speak. Learn more than you claim. Be the father they need, not the man you wished you had been." He felt tears rise, and for the first time, he allowed himself to feel the depth of his mistakes without flinching. He would spend years trying to make up for lost time, and he would fail, and he would rise again. But now, at this gala, under the watchful eyes of the children he helped create, he understood that redemption was not about being loved back. It was about showing up, every single day, for the lives he had touched and the lives he had neglected. The night stretched on, but Derek stayed. The boys ran small, cautious circles around him, laughter threading through the pain of years lost. Ariel watched, not with relief, but with quiet pride. She had survived the injustice of abandonment and the subtle cruelties of a world that judged her worth. And now, she allowed the man who had faltered to learn, to grow, to begin to make amends. And in that moment, Derek realized that success meant nothing without responsibility. He had been stunned at a gala, yes, but what truly stunned him was the chance to witness resilience, love, and the unshakable power of doing the right thing. Finally, at last, the gala ended. But for Derek, the night would never truly end. He walked away from the glitter and applause with a new understanding of life. Success meant nothing without love, without responsibility, without facing the truths he had long avoided. He had been given a rare second chance, not to erase the past, but to build something real for the future. Ariel had survived alone. She had raised 3 boys in a world that underestimated them at every turn. And now, for the first time, Derek could see what he had missed: the resilience, the courage, and the dignity that could not be taken away by absence or injustice. He understood, finally, that wealth could never measure a father's presence, nor could influence replace the bond between parent and child. The boys laughed and ran around him once more, their voices carrying the unspoken promise that life could still be shaped by love, effort, and integrity. Derek reached for each of their hands, not as a man seeking redemption for himself, but as a father willing to stand with them through every step, every challenge, every victory. This story is a reminder: the world may pressure you, judge you, or push you to abandon what matters most, but courage, accountability, and love have the power to reclaim what was lost. Thank you for listening. I'm Simmons, and this has been Chronicles of Black. Subscribe, comment, and share your thoughts, because every story deserves to be heard.